In other news, earlier we had a very special guest in the show, Miss Yulia Rachinsky-Spivakov, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Israel. And it is her last day here in the Philippines today. And she shared her country's measures in dealing with this pandemic. Please watch this.
Israel is not easy. First of all, would like to greet you, Alma, and magandang umaga sa inyong lahat.
How is Israel coping with the worldwide pandemic, and what can we learn from your country's measures in dealing with this?
We all are facing the challenge of the pandemics, and Israel is not exception in this situation. So it seemed at the beginning that we were able to cope, and but now the numbers are rising. But I must tell you that the advantage in Israel is that our medical system is very strong. We were able to make all the necessary preparation during the time of the lockdown. The lockdown was very short. It was only for a couple of weeks. And then it was the decision of the government to reopen the economy to make it able to operate and to sustain. But in the meantime, we were able to acquire a lot of equipment. So that's why there is not a lot of pressure on the hospitals in Israel, and we still, the capacity can deal with the numbers that we have. We are going to open schools with some adjustments, of course, and with observance of social distancing on September 1st. So the schools are going to be reopened fully, face-to-face learning.
Wow.
Yeah, but I must say that all the ecosystem in Israel totally was mobilized towards this effort to combat the pandemics. We are known as startup nation, as the nation of innovation.
Yes.
And a lot of Israeli startups, they switched their operations to an effort to deal with the pandemic. So it can be prevention, it can be diagnosis, it can be tracing, but they started to develop different technologies to give the answer to the needs of the pandemic.
First, could you expound on your mission here in the Philippines?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is my last day, so it's always a mixed feelings, you know, when you leave. On one side, you are very sad to leave, and especially here. Sobrang maganda ang bansa ninyo. So really enjoy and really, I really like your country, and especially your beautiful and kind people. But on the other hand, you know, there is this excitement of going back home to your family and your friends and your work in Jerusalem, the holy city of Jerusalem. But our mission here is very expansive in terms of its very wide. We deal with different aspects. It's not concentrated only on one field or one topic. You know, your president Duterte visited Israel just recently, a couple of years ago. It was the first visit of an acting president in our country, acting Filipino president in our country. And after that, our relations are blooming. They are expanding in different directions. So it can be economic cooperation, it can be security cooperation, cultural cooperation. We have a lot of agreements, technological and scientific agreements that were signed during the visit of your president. Of course, I have to mention the OFWs, the big OFWs community that we have in Israel. We have around 40,000 OFWs who work as caregivers in Israel. And during the visit of your president, there were several agreements that were signed to expand the capacity. So we were talking about employing. Philippines has become the first country of deployment of workers to hotel industry in Israel.
With regard to the response of the coronavirus pandemic, what guidelines and measures has Israel put in place, which to you have made the most impact in combating the transmission of this virus?
I think the measures are pretty much the same as everywhere else. So social distancing, Of course, proper hygiene procedures, hand washing, and masks as
Mm-hmm.
well. So mass gatherings were prohibited at a certain stage. Now they're limited up to 50 people
Mm-hmm.
in Israel. But I think there is a general understanding. At the beginning, there was some people were skeptical about the measures, but now I think the public in Israel understands that those measures needs to be taken in order to effectively being able to deal with the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more or less the same, but the lockdown it's not that strict because we understand that the economy does need to be granted the chance to operate
Right.
and sustain itself.
Right. Do you see potential for stronger, with this pandemic going on, do you see potential for stronger trade, tourism, and diplomatic ties with the Philippines?
Well, as in every situation, we must look at the opportunities that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely, we see some maybe new areas that will come out of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
For example, cooperation that we are now discussing with some of your departments in terms of technological and scientific developments that we have that are related to pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Only, for example, last Friday, Israel, we have an international development agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Mashab. So Mashab, through the embassy, was able to donate essential equipment to DepEd. And
Yes.
in the presence of your Secretary Briones, virtual presence,
Yes.
we were able to donate some copy machines, printers, and iPads to the schools, to the teachers, and of course to the department itself. Because we do
Mm-hmm.
understand, you know, you have 24 million students. Israel
Mm-hmm.
is only 9 million. So the population of your students is 3 times bigger than the size of Israeli population. So we
Mm-hmm.
do realize the challenge that you need to face when you start the school year, especially in the remote areas. You know, it's not easy, and the secretary was able to explain to us all the challenges that you are facing with. So that's,
Yes.
for example, you know, where we can assist, we are trying to do it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Last week also we were able to donate to make a small grant to one of your
Mm-hmm.
farmers in Nueva Ecija,
Wow.
who was a graduate of a training in Israel, and now he would like to. He runs an association of farmers in this region, so he would like to expose them to Israeli technology. And
Mm-hmm.
also we understand how important that is in this time, you know, to support your farmers, to support your agriculture. So
Mm-hmm.
we try to do our best with our technology. We try to share our knowledge and technological achievements with you. Yeah, we cannot, you know, compare with other big countries, but we try to do what we are good at. And we are good at know-how, we are good at technology, we are good at science.
Very good. So very good. According to the ambassador, you were mentioning, Israel has a lot to offer to the Philippines, from innovations in agriculture and water management. The last time we interviewed him, he mentioned this also, and he also said your challenge is water management and quality. Our challenge, we can help you with this. Our challenge is not having enough water, so we develop. So with you, we develop new sources. Saving water is also in our DNA. He said, how could we expand our two cultures or close relations? Do you see any alternatives for tourism in a post-COVID travel environment? Do we see more direct flights between our two countries?
Well, direct flights, that is something that was on the table before the outbreak of the pandemics. So we
Mm-hmm.
really hope to be able to go back to this in the nearest future, to this discussion. And the tourism was really expanding. Before, we used to have, in 2019, we had 35,000 Filipinos traveling to Israel. And
Mm-hmm.
we had around 20, 25,000 Israelis coming to the Philippines. So
Mm-hmm.
Israelis really started to discover the Philippines as a new touristic attraction in Southeast Asia. And we were looking very optimistic in the future. Nobody knew that the pandemic will come.
Yes.
But we are still optimistic, right? Because we think that it will be over soon, and we will be able to resume the touristic ties that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
I was mentioning the agreement that was signed for bringing Filipino workers in the tourism industry in Israel. So
Mm-hmm.
that is something that we will definitely continue to look into after we go over the first challenges that we have today.
Uh-huh.
In terms of pandemics, because in Israel, as I mentioned, we have only 9 million people, but we have 4 million tourists every year. So imagine that in the Philippines, you would have 50 million tourists,
Mm-hmm.
uh, half of your population. So it's really a great load on our hotels, and we need a good qualified manpower, which we can find in the Philippines. English
Mm-hmm.
speaking, very service oriented, very kind people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one of the areas that we would like to expand when we talk about tourism industry in general. And definitely, I hope when the discussions about direct flights will resume, we will see an increase in the numbers of tourists that are traveling between our countries.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier about the schooling, and thank you for your immediate response to the Philippines' current needs and adjustments to online education. As we all know that the world is really turning to e-learning right now because of the circumstances. Um, is Israel also going for a blended learning approach? Do you think? You said September is opening, but uh, do you think Israel will also go for that, a blended learning approach by electronic online media?
Well, the system in Israel is designed a bit different. So first
Mm-hmm.
of all, we will decrease the number of students that we have in every class. That's for all grade levels. So
Mm-hmm.
it will be like if we had 30 students, we will have 15 in
Mm-hmm.
every classroom. And at
Mm-hmm.
least for the younger children, so from K to grade 4, it is going to be face to face every day. So full
Mm-hmm.
face learning.
Mm-hmm.
But later for older kids, we will have blended. So maybe 2 days a week they will come to school, and
Ah,
2 days they will have online learning. And
uh-huh.
that's because we understand that for younger students there is a need for parental guidance. So parents will need to be there in order for them to be able to avail online learning. And unfortunately, parents they need to, fortunately or fortunately, they need to go back to their workplaces. So they
Mm-hmm.
will not be able to make this online learning with younger students who are not capable
Mm-hmm.
of doing it by themselves independently. But when we talk about older kids, starting from the age of 10 or 11, they already are able of doing it by themselves. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's going to be alternate schedule,
Mm-hmm.
partially online, partially face to face.
Are there any best practices which the world can learn from Israel in coping with a different educational setup, especially during this pandemic?
Yeah, well, all the schools in Israel, they operate with what we call learning management systems, LMS. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a virtual platform where you have everything. You have learning modules built in inside the platform. You also have chats, an opportunity for teachers, parents, and kids to communicate. You also have tools for assessment and, of course, video conferences. So it's something that we know that was already examined by Department of Education in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Israeli technology that was examined by them in order to be able to provide internet platform. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be a good solution.
Mm-hmm. Good, very good. I'd like to ask, are there any new diplomatic developments in the last few days which will spur possible in business and development opportunities? I don't know if you know what I'm going to. Direct telephone services deal just signed between UAE and Israel. Agreement
Yes, of
on
course, we are
coronavirus
very
research and
happy.
development. Yes.
Yes, we are very happy about that. And that's really a major development, recent
Yes.
development in our diplomatic relations with the Arab
Mm-hmm.
world. Israel has always said that we extend our hand to peace. Our hand is always extended, and we don't have any problem with the people around us. We know that
Yes.
we share mutual heritage. We
Uh-huh.
share the same roots. We share the same region and the same environment. So there is really nothing to fight about.
Yes.
So some regimes in our area, in the Middle Eastern area, they have problems with the existence of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Like Iran or terrorist organizations, Hamas or Hezbollah in Lebanon, that challenge the same existence of the state of Israel. And of course, with that, it's very hard to have a constructive dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But when a nation like UAE extends its hand towards us, of course, we will be happily embrace it. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that your DFA has already issued a statement about this agreement, and we are grateful for the support that has been given to it. We still need to witness the actual signing of the agreement, of course, with
Yeah.
the involvement of the United States. But
Mm-hmm.
we are really looking forward toward it. It will definitely create some new opportunities for Israeli businessmen, for Israeli people, for tourism. And
Mm-hmm.
we are looking forward to creating full diplomatic relations with this beautiful country.
Yes. So this is your last day, and we're sad that you're leaving us. But what can you say? Did you take away from your stay here in the Philippines?
Oh, we don't have enough time for that. It's a long list, but we share a lot of mutual values as the Israelis and the Filipinos. The major value that is mutual for us is family. We
Yes.
cherish our families, and the Filipinos, as I discovered, also that's of a great importance to every Filipino. So that's something that is mutual to us. We are also, we are very unofficial. So Israelis are very friendly. They are always smiling. They are very welcoming people, and the same is true for the Filipinos. You love Israel, so
Yes,
everywhere
we
you
do.
go as diplomats,
Very,
you make our
yeah.
job very easy because it's easy to say that we represent Israel, and we always have very positive feedback and reactions
Mm-hmm.
because you're religious people, you are a religious nation, and
Mm-hmm.
Israel with all its history, and of course being the land of Jesus Christ, has a great importance to the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, that one of the very important events that actually unite our countries is your President Kazan, and we keep on telling this story because it's very important. Your President Kazan, who was brave enough to open the doors of your country in receiving Jewish people that were fleeing from Nazi Germany at the end of the 30s. And
Mm-hmm.
1,300 people were able to be saved here on the Filipino soil due
True.
to his courageous act, and we're always grateful for that, and we
Mm-hmm.
will be. And that's why we were here when you needed to have some assistance with Typhoon Yolanda in 2013, or where you needed to combat the terrorist organization in Marawi in 2017. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were ready to extend our help, and of course that's a friendly nation, and I really hope, I'm very optimistic, and I see our nations, they have a great future, and
Yeah.
the friendship that we were able to establish will be only growing and blooming in the next years. So I'm just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for being able to contribute my small part to this friendship, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to seeing more and more Filipinos coming to visit Israel.
Thank you so much. Do you have any last message for all the viewers out there who's watching you right now?
Well, again, I would like to, first of all, to wish you a lot of success in combating the pandemic that hit so hard the world and the Philippines. I think that with joint effort from all the countries that will be united, we will be able to win this battle. and
Mhm.
hopefully very soon. And we'll be
Mhm.
able to go back, if not to normal, but to some kind of a new normal. And
Yes.
with this new normal, of course, we'll resume the tourism ties that we have. And please come and visit Israel. Israel has a lot to offer, not only holy sites, not only historical sites, but also modern Israel, the
Mm.
innovation scene and the startup scene and the beaches of Tel Aviv. You will
Yes.
discover a great country, and we will welcome you with open arms.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your time, Miss
Alma,
Yulia.
you also are welcome to come, you personally.
Thank you so much, Miss Yulia. And thank you so much for your time. Yeah, I know you're a very busy woman, and I know you'll be packing up and everything and endorsing all the jobs right now to your uh, successor.
Thank you so much, Alma, for this opportunity. Maraming salamat at paalam.
Paalam po. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Thank you.
Shalom. Toda raba.